brethren. This is where Gizuki had water manipulation. Part 2. You guys, I know I've been taking like long breaks here, but that's cause I was on holiday from school, my guy. You know, when I'm on holiday, I'm on holiday. Like, I'm not gonna do shit. I'm like, you can't expect me to do anything when I get a break from everything, you know. But anyway, let's get right into it, guys. I read the comment on the last video that said I took too long to get to the point. Right? I took too long to get to the point. It's cool. It's cool. So I believe when I last left off, Izuku had just arrived in a new world and was found by the Midoriyas, you know. And Izuku, like I said, he's a beautiful child, and I'm not gonna say he's cute because that's gay as shit, but he's like a beautiful child, and so like they're like so Sasashi's like, oh my god, we have to call the police, and Inko's like, yo, can we keep him? And Sasashi's like, yo, it's a bit what, you know. But Inko's like, I want to keep him. Like, we can't even have a baby of our own anyway. And Sasashi's like, okay, we can keep him, yeah, but we have to go through the proper channels for it, you know. Like, he's like, we have to go to the proper channels. So like, we have to like take him to the police station and then adopt him, you know. And Inko's like, cool. And so, you know, they go to the police station to get him registered. Like, when he wakes up, they get him registered. And they're like, who are your parents? Like, where you from? And he's like, what? He's like, what the fuck is this? He's like, where am I? You know, and they're like, you're in blah 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 district, you know, some random district in Japan, in Tokyo. Sorry, is it Tokyo? Wherever, but whichever city Izuku lived in, that's where they live. They're like, you're in such and such district in such and such city, you know. And Izuku's like, where? And then the memory comes back, you know, that he was like put through hell in that portal, and the gods sent him to another universe type shit. And he's like, oh, right. He's like, I have no memory of anything before this. And so they put him down as having like amnesia or some shit, you know. And Inko and Hisashi adopt him. So I'm pretty sure I said he was 4 when he came, right? So if not, I'm sorry, he's 4 when he comes. So Izuku, his first day of school, right? When he gets there, they're like, introduce yourself. He's like, I'm Izuku Midoriya. Yeah, that he's like, I'm Izuku Midoriya. I'm 4 years old, and my quirk is water manipulation. And everybody's like, wow, you have a quirk already? Because like, just when everybody turns 4, right? So this is like before anybody in his class unlocks a quirk. So they're like, wow, you have a quirk already? That's so cool. Izuku's like, okay, whatever. Because he doesn't trust anyone, and he never will ever again. Because the gods of his universe like betrayed him, right? So he's like, if the gods, like the ones that are supposed to be holy beings, are willing to betray me, what makes me think, like, what lets me know that anybody else won't betray me, you know? Don't get me wrong, he's gonna have like a girlfriend and shit, right? But he's never gonna like trust them fully type thing, you know? He's gonna put all these like contemporaries in place. Sorry, contingencies in place, just in case like he gets betrayed by anyone ever again, including his parents. He doesn't trust them fully either. Anyway, you know, the time comes when Bakugo gets his quirk. Bakugo gets all the praise, you know, and he starts testing out like, can I how much can I provoke this guy? Because he's already in that mindset. I'm the best. I'll never be topped. So he's like, how much can I provoke this guy before he like retaliates? So he goes to like, at first it's just with like little bullying, like nudging him, And when he tries to nudge Izuku just nudges him back so hard that he has to like step back and shit, right? But Bakugo keeps going and he tries to trip Izuku. And when he does, Izuku like trips, but he doesn't fall. He just steps. Like he doesn't trip. He like gets his foot caught on Bakugo's foot, but he doesn't fall. He just keeps walking in it. So Bakugo's like, okay, that's it. And then he goes up to Izuku, right? And he tries to do an explosion. Izuku grabs his hand and just bink. Nigga's gone. He's gone. He just one taps him right on the jaw, and my guy's gone. You know. And the teacher comes in, but Izuku had already placed Bakugo in his seat, just made it look like Bakugo was sleeping, you know. And all of the students don't say anything because they're scared, like mortified of Izuku, because Bakugo can already like beat the shit out of them, right? And if Izuku can beat the shit out of Bakugo, like what does that say about him, you know? And nobody's ever seen him use his quirk, right? So they're like, is his quirk actually water manipulation? Like, what the hell? You know? So Izuku's like people ask him like, do you actually have a quirk all the time? You know? And he's like always like, yeah, I do. And anytime they ask him to show off his quirk, he's like, no, and just leaves. You know? So Bakugo develops a theory that Izuku doesn't even have a quirk, and he starts calling him Deku like in the original, right? And this goes on um until the last day of their middle school. But you have to understand, like, Izuku doesn't take that shit. Like, anytime Bakugo calls him Deku or anything, he just gets punched, like, out of nowhere. He doesn't even see it coming ever. And he trains himself so much to be able to see the punches coming, right? But Izuku doesn't just have water manipulation, you know? Because he's like, Poseidon was my father, huh? He's like, it seems like he's the only one because, like I said, when he went through the portal, yeah, he acquired some sort of higher intelligence, and his intelligence grows with his age. And since he's a demigod, and immortality is one of his perks of being a demigod, his intelligence will eventually transcend. You know, so so anytime Bakugo does anything, he just boom, you know, blasts him in the face. Like, and I mean immortal, like he lives, he has eternal youth, not like he can't die. Like he can die, like any god, he can die. It just takes a lot to kill him, you know. But anyway, so basically, anyway, like I was saying, so Bakugo, and he always tries to bully Izuku in every occasion he gets, but Izuku always like just knocks him out anytime. He just doesn't pay attention to Bakugo whatsoever. And this whole time Izuku like builds his body to like what do you call it? Gargantuan proportions, like Herculean type shit, you know? Give me a second. So what I mean by Herculean proportions is, you see this guy? Basically, nah, he doesn't look like that. Give me a second. Give me a second. He looks like this, you know, like ripped as shit. Like just ripped to the absolute bone. Give me a second. Anyway, so yeah, he looks like that. But anyway, like I was saying, so he like gets ripped, like completely ripped, you know, like body, not bodybuilder, like but like men's physique type shit, you know. So like ripped like this, you know, like this. This is like his exact body type. So he's like that, right? And basically, the kids see this. They always see. They always ask him why he has such, why he builds his body so much, because they've heard from the teachers that supposedly On Izuku's file, it says he has one of the most powerful quirks that the doctors had ever seen, right? But they've never seen him use his quirk for real. They know that it's like a water manipulation type shit, right? But they think he's like just like that hero with the blast water thing, like Koda's parents and shit, right? So they don't think it's all that good, right? Until like the last day of school, right? Which, you know, Izuku, like, he's finally had enough of Bakugo's shit, and he's like, it's the last day of school anyway. I'm gonna let rip. So Bakugo comes up with his usual bullshit. You know, he's like, Deku, what are you doing? Signing up for you way, blah blah blah. You're a weakling. You'll never get in without a quirk, you fucking quirkless bastard. And Izuku's like, well, it is our last day of school, so I guess I will show you my quirk. Everybody's like, what? Izuku's gonna show his quirk, blah blah blah. And then, like, suddenly they just hear glass break, you know? And when they hear glass break, they look over to the window, and it's actually just water. Like, water just came through the window. It's like this big, like, ball of water above Bakugo's head, right? And then Izuku, like, crushes the ball, and the water, like, falls on Bakugo. And Izuku's, like, just snaps his fingers, and the whole water just freezes Bakugo over. But it's not like, it's not like super, super cold ice. It's like ice that's just newly formed, right? So it doesn't like give him hypothermia or anything. It just freezes like a shell right above his skin. And Bakugo's like freezing, and he struggles a bit, but he finally gets out, right? And Bakugo's like, is that it? And Izuku's like, okay, since you want to be such a bitch and make me show off my quirk, he makes the water go back to liquid, picks it, he like makes it float up in the air, right? And he turns it into like tiny ice spikes, and just, they just stick Bakugo right in the body, and everybody just sees him bleeding all over, right? But he makes like little insertions, just enough to like draw a little bit of blood. So Bakugo was like, what did you do to me? And Izuku's like, anyway, I'll be taking my leave now. And when he leaves, everybody's like, that wasn't really impressive. And then one girl's like, hey yo, look outside. And they see like it's snowing, and there's a bunch of ice made roses outside when Izuku's walking, you know. And everybody's like, wow, his quirk is so powerful, it's so flashy, blah blah blah, you know. And Izuku's like, yeah, fucking thought so, nigga. And he just like disappears, right? And basically he's walking home, and the sludge villain attacks. And when the sludge villain attacks, Izuku just quickly freezes the sludge villain. Like, no time wasted. And he calls 911, and he's in the middle of saying, yeah, I was attacked by a villain, when All Might shows up, and he's like, never mind, the hero is here. And the police is like, oh, okay then. And All Might's like, hi. He's like, hello, did you do this, young man? And Izuku's like, yeah, I did. And, All Might's like, well, you know it is illegal to use your quirk, blah, 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 blah. And Izuku's like, fuck all that. I don't care, nigga. He's like, take the villain and go on your way, because I don't give a fuck. And All Might's like, that is a very rude thing to say, young man, and blah, 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 blah. How you shouldn't use your quirk. It's against the law. You could go to jail, blah, blah. And Izuku's like, nobody could ever take me to jail. I'm the strongest nigga in the world. Even you couldn't do it, All Might, because you a bitch, and you weak, and you refuse to kill. So fuck you. And Izuku just starts walking away, And All Might's like, what? He's like, what? And he sees this like buff ass nigga, right? And he sees that the guy is like frozen in ice, and if he doesn't need his body for shit, like if he has a ice quirk, like why does he build his body, right? And he says anyway, it doesn't matter. But Izuku has never actually used his quirk like that, right? Because his his family is like they used to be like very not poor, but they were like they went through a rough patch where they struggled with money, you know. So Izuku, he does the only sane thing to him and starts selling ice, you know. Not like that, right? Because he goes to like these companies, you know, that manufacture ice, and basically they already didn't need like anybody with a quirk to make ice because they already had someone to do that, right? But that person made ice like fucking 90% slower than Izuku. It took him like an hour to make like a decent chunk of ice, you know, while Izuku would just make like entire glaciers from thin air, you know. So the company immediately doesn't replace the guy, but they put Izuku like frontline type shit, you know. So Izuku gets like a bunch of money, plus he like what you call it? He sells like water and shit too, you know. He just sells water. Like my nigga can make water out of thin air, right? And it's like the purest water because it hasn't been like and nothing has been done to it because it was like evaporated water and it's not rain, right? It's not rainwater because it hasn't even hit the floor yet type shit, you know? So you can just like draw water from the air, materialize it out of nothing type shit. But he's never like used his fucking power to like the degree where Poseidon does, like making storms and shit, right? So Izuku's like, well, I guess it's time for me to explore the full capabilities of my power, you know? So he goes out into the ocean, and this is for like 10 months. For the 10 months of training, he's like, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna be gone for a while, so take care. And Izuku only had to do that, selling water and selling ice shit for like 2 years and then his mom and dad they got like stable jobs and now they're like not they're like mid um to high working family, you know. So his dad is like not a CEO, but he works in like a big company that pays well, and his mom's is like I don't fucking know, like let's say her telekinesis is like really strong, so she works like I don't fucking know, just a job that pays well. They both earn like they both earn 100,000 a year, so that's no 125,000 a year each, so that's, you know, 250,000 a year as a collective family, which makes a lot of money. I mean, it means a lot of money for them, you know, type shit. So Izuku, he's like, hey yo, I'm going out for 10 months. Don't worry, I'll be fine, and just take care. And his family, they don't really give a fuck when he goes out because they know he can protect himself better than anyone, right? Because they've seen that no matter what happens, he is always like the most powerful in the room. Like they've never seen anybody as powerful as this nigga, right? And they're like, he can take care of himself. So for like nearly a year, their son is just gone, and they don't report it or anything. And whenever not Inko, whenever Mitsuki would ask like, "Where's Izuku?" Blah blah. Inko would just say he's off on a training trip, and Bakugo hearing this, he's like, "That freak went on a training trip, and he's been there this whole time. Like I need to train too." Blah blah blah. He's like, "I want to go on a training trip too," and his mom's like, "Well, Inko let Izuku go because she completely trusts him and knows that he's a capable young man. I don't trust you whatsoever, so you stay in your ass home." And Bakugo's like, "But mom," but anyway, Izuku, he's been in the ocean this whole time. He's been controlling the weather like a motherfucker. You know, like he like how do you say it? He's been making storms all over the world. The storms that just appear out of nowhere. And people are starting to know like somebody's using their quirk to make these storms. Like these ain't natural temperatures, you know? And there's been like tsunamis and shit. But not to like populated areas. So like unpopulated areas, like washing up like uninhabited islands type shit, you know? and these tsunamis, they come and they just they wipe out the whole fucking island. Like, not like small islands either, because this is the world of my hero. I'm gonna say, like, the world of my hero is like 50% bigger than our world, and there's the same amount of population in their world as ours, and there's a bunch of unexplored islands. Well, unexplored but known, and the governments around the world are seeing that, like, nearly every single small island has been like wiped out, and some like quicker than others. Some sink, some are like tsunamis washing them away, and some are like just weird shit, you know? Just weird shit. But, and also, to all you niggas that say Zeus is more powerful than Poseidon, think of it like this. Poseidon can control water. Water, not just the oceans. He can control water in general, right? So if the nigga was to like make a cloud, right? If he was to make a rain cloud and then charge enough electrons into that shit, the discharge would make thunder. So technically, this nigga can just make thunder clouds like fucking Zeus. And I'm saying this like Poseidon's the most broken fucking god of all. The nigga can fucking draw water out of air, okay? And they say Zeus is the most powerful god. Fuck you talking about, nigga. Fuck you talking about. Get the fuck on my screen, bitch ass niggas. I hate you niggas. But anyway, getting back to our scheduled program. How much time? 21 minutes. Alright, that's cool, that's cool. Anyway, so whole island's been washing like the fuck out, you know? And they're realizing that all the trash in the ocean being cleaned out. Them being cleaned out the fuck. Like, and it's just like mountains, literal mountains, like the size of skyscrapers and shit, of trash encased in ice just washes up ashore for no reason, you know. And if the if any country tries to like throw the trash back into the ocean, like it just shows up again with a storm, like a big ass storm, you know. So they're like, hey, yo, this can't be fucking normal, you know. And so they sent a bunch of crusades like All Might and all that shit and go into the ocean, you know. And they're trying to find the source of these tsunamis and these all these waves and shit. And instead of finding like Izuku, you know, sorry, instead of finding like who they were hoping for, like they were hoping like they were thinking like an entity. They weren't thinking like shit. What am I trying to say right now? Fucking hell. Um, they personally, most people thought it wasn't anything, right? They thought it was just weird occurrences. But All Might and the governments and shit, they knew it was a quirk because there's no like the weather like wasn't supposed to be like that type shit, you know? So they go into the ocean. When they go into the ocean, they find this, you know, instead of a like, give me a second actually. Okay, instead of like what they were hoping to find, nothing, right? Hoping, but they probably knew they would find someone or something, you know. And so they find this, like, because Izuku, he has all of the god's abilities, like all of Poseidon's abilities plus some other ones. So like superhuman strength and speed, you know. He's able to like fly and shit just by manipulating like the water particles around him, you know. Or he could just fly by itself, just cause I want him to be overpowered for this one. So he can fly, has superhuman strength, superhuman speed. He's not completely invulnerable, you know. Like things can still like hurt him, but it has to be like an immense amount of force, like Nomu, like advanced Nomu type strength, you know. That's the amount of strength it takes to like wound him to a point where it's actually noticeable. So, and he has Gigantification, which is, or divine projection, which is when he becomes like giant, and that's like his god form. Like his god form is like his father's form, type shit. So they just see this massive nigga with a trident, right? And they're like, who the fuck is this nigga trying to be Poseidon? And Izuku's like, I am Poseidon, god of the ocean. And basically, back in Izuku's home dimension, which was like the Greek mythology realm, right? Poseidon just sneezes. He's like, what the fuck? What the fuck was that? Gods don't get sick, you know? But anyway, Izuku's like, I'm Poseidon, god of the ocean. He's like, leave. And just pushes them away all the way. Like, they're flinged out of the ocean, but they all land safely, which they don't fucking understand, right? Because the amount of force that took their boat, it seemed like it was gonna crash and like leave all of them dead. But nothing happens, and when they look outside the boat, it's because like this wave just like carries them to shore safely. So they tried a bunch of crusades trying to stop this. Who they're calling like this Poseidon impersonator or some shit like this. They're like the public are calling him Poseidon, god of the sea, like he calls himself, right? But the like the government and shit, or like the some of the public and the government, they're calling him like a menace to society and shit, and saying he needs to be taken down. And they send All Might, they send Endeavor, they even send Eraserhead to see if they can erase his quirk. Nothing happens. When Eraserhead looks at him, and they're like, it must be like a gigantification quirk, like paired with a water manipulation quirk or some shit. And Endeavor Endeavor like throws fire at him, but fire against water, that shit don't work. And so everything, all the fire just gets snuffed out, and All Might throws a full powered United States of Smash right at Izuku's chest. And because he's in his absolute god form, and he doesn't take this form lightly. He'll probably take it like after 100 years, when his parents pass away and everybody he knows passes away, and he's the only one left. He'll probably take it and just retreat into the ocean. That's his plan, right? To live his best human life and then retreat into the ocean and live as the god. And that's basically the plan for him, But in his god form, pretty much nothing can harm him except for godly weapons like his trident, forged forged in like by a god's powers or some shit like that. Except for godly weapons, nothing can hurt him in this form. So All Might throws a full power like United States of Smash right at his chest, which Izuku kind of feels, but it's kind of like a sting, like a bee stinging you, right? But it's not like that strong, right? And Izuku throws them back to shore. Eventually, they just give up because they're like, All Might like tried to fight this thing. They're calling it a thing because like they're like, there's no way that a person could have that much power, you know. And so the public just know there's something out in the ocean, right? And the military's called in. There's a bunch of like airstrikes, and they even try like a nuclear bomb type shit, They try a literal nuclear bomb, which when they do it, Izuku gets really angry because like he gets angry because it left radiation poisoning and a bunch of his citizens, which are like the fish and all the creatures of the sea. A bunch of them got like radiation poisoning and shit. So Izuku extracts all of that bad quotation water and just like throws it back into the shore of that country, which was the USA, And so he throws it back at that country, and basically a bunch of the residents of the state where he threw it in, which was like Washington. He made it. Washington D.C. I swear Washington D.C. is like the capital whatever. He makes it rain toxic water on the White House. Like that radiated water, he just rains it on the, what do you call it, on the White House. And his kingdom is like at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, where he built his castle over the 10 months. And now he has the full grasp of his powers. He can manipulate water down to the slightest atom. So he could literally explode humans from the inside out just by flicking his fingers, you know? And that is pretty much what I'm saying. So Izuku gets back, you know? And basically, the radars, they can detect him because he's so massive. He's like the fucking height of a skyscraper, you know? Like imagine a skyscraper is like this big, but it's not like as big as it's not as big as the Mariana Trench, not at all. Like it's not as big. He's not as big as a mountain. He's just like um imagine like he's the size of the Eiffel Tower type shit, you know? And he just rests at the bottom of the ocean. And one day, and they've been monitoring him at the bottom of the ocean um through what the fuck are they called, radars and shit, yeah, through their submarines and stuff. And they try to go down there to see what he's doing, but he always just pushes them back up, you know, because once they get too low down, firstly they already have the normal pressure of the Mariana Trench, and they can't see shit because it's dark as fuck. But whenever they get like down low enough, they never see him, but they always feel this like giant pressure on them, and then they go back up because that's Izuku like squeezing the water around the ship. But anyway, one day he just disappears from their radar, and they're like, "What the fuck? Like, where did he go?" You know? And then Izuku just emerges back up from the water and um walks to Inko's house, and Inko's like, "Damn, where the fuck have you been?" And Izuku's like, "What do you mean, mother?" Because he calls her mother. He calls his dad father because he's still like, I told you, untrustworthy. But he respects them enough to call them his mother and father. So he's like, "What do you mean, mother?" And this used to be his natural state. But he's like this now. He comes back like this, and they're like, what the fuck? Like, what's wrong with your hair? First of all, like, it's so light. Yeah, like he started off like this, became this, and now he's this. So they're like, what the fuck is wrong with your hair? Like it used to be so dark, now it's so light again. Like it's like when you were a child. And they're like, what is that red marking? Like it used to be blue. And Yuzuku's like, well, a lot have changed. And his parents are like, anyway, you've missed a lot. Like there's this new not villain. They're like this new person that's like in the oceans and shit, and he's like controlling stuff, and he even beat All Might and shit. And Yuzuku's like, yeah, I know, that was me, cause he doesn't hide anything from his parents, cause he doesn't care what they find out about, right? Cause he still doesn't trust anybody, and he doesn't care what anybody thinks. So he's like, yeah, that was me. And they're like, what? That couldn't have been you. Like you're not like. Do you see this guy? He looks like he's 33 type shit, and you and you still look like you're like. And they're like, you look old, but you don't look like you're that old, like type shit. And Yuzuku like, whatever. I don't give a fuck. He's like, but that is me. And they're like, okay, then prove it, nigga. And Izuku just like his eyes start glowing like blue, right? Like this fiery blue just starts glowing in his eyes, and then he starts growing in size, and a beard starts to grow on him and shit. And they're like, okay, you proved your point, And they're like, then why have you like why did you beat up All Might? Because Izuku did like flick All Might before he washed them ashore this time, and All Might was like pretty beat up. Like his time limit was like 3 hours. Now it's like 1.5. So they're like, why did you beat All Might? Like why did you put all those tornadoes and hurricanes on the different countries and for no reason? And Izuku was like, for no reason. Like they didn't heed my warnings. And they're like, what warnings? Because the public have only been told that this menace is terrorizing society. That's it. And basically Izuku's like, well, there was a bunch of trash in the ocean. I noticed when I went, and since I am the god of the ocean, and they're like, don't call yourself a god. And he's like, I'm a god. And he's like, since I'm the god of the ocean, you know, I sent back all of the trash that was in my fucking property, bro. Like, humans are not allowed to throw trash in my property ever again. And that's why I threw it back in a case of ice to every country, you know? And they threw it back in the ocean, and I threw it back with a storm. That was it. And they're like, then why are you washing up? Why are you washing up a bunch of islands? And Izuku's like, because I'm not. And they're like, what? And Izuku's like, I'm just encasing them in ice below the ocean because I needed to test out my powers. And since those islands are uninhabited by humans, there's a lot of animal life, you know? And they're like, what, wouldn't they suffocate down there? And he's like, no, like my ice is very special because I can allow air air particles to like travel between and out of the thing. And he's like, the islands are back now anyway because I'm out of the ocean, so it doesn't matter. And they're like, oh, damn. And then the news turns on, and they're like, it seems that the being claiming to be Poseidon, Lord of the Ocean, has returned, or the islands that he took away have returned out of nowhere, and he has disappeared according to the nations of the world. And basically the nations of the world are basically like the great powers like Russia, the United States, the United Kingdom, Japan, like India, you know, like them shits. Them's is United the United States of the world. Not the United States, the United States of the world. So they're like, yes, we defeated the Goliath known as Poseidon, blah blah blah, and now he has retreated. And the and Izuku's like, what? Defeated me? He's like, they could never defeat me. Like, that is an impossibility for you humans. And you know, so Izuku just goes to his room, you know, because he came back like a week before his before the entrance exam. So this time when Mitsuki is visiting their house, like a day after Izuku comes back, she visits their house with Bakugo, and Mitsuki's like, oh, when is Izuku coming back? You know, like the UA entrance exams are like just a week away. And Inko's like, oh, he returned yesterday actually. And Bakugo's like, what? He's back? And Inko's like, yeah, he's back. He returned only yesterday though. And Bakugo's like, where is he? And Ingo's like I said, he returned yesterday. Like, give the nigga time to rest. And Bakugo's like, no, where is he? Where is he? And Ingo's like, he's in his room. But give him time to. And before she can finish that sentence, Bakugo's already off to his room, you know, because he's like, no, that nerd, he can't be training without me. Like, he can't be training by himself because Bakugo usually like copies um Izuku's like training methods to build his body and shit, like Izuku does, you know. He hadn't seen Izuku use his quirk until middle school, like I said, but he did see Izuku practice a bunch with his physical strength and shit, you know. And Bakugo always thought to himself, how is this nerd so strong if he has a water manipulation quirk? He must be quirkless and just a really strong person. Like, I can get that strong too. So Bakugo is like he's not peak human physique, but for his age, he is. You know, he's peak physique for his age. So not a bodybuilder type body, you know? So like, let me show you. If Izuku was this built, right? Like before the 10 months, Bakugo is now this built, and Izuku's like, um, let's see. No, no, give me a second. Izuku's built like Broly now. Yeah, he's built like Broly now. Boy, boy. So Izuku's like this built now, you know? He's like big as shit, bodybuilder type physique, you know? And Bakugo's like, um, that big, like this big, like I said. So, you know, Bakugo goes to Izuku's room, and he sees Izuku like doing some push-ups and just training in general, you know. And Bakugo's like, "What the hell is that?" You know, because he just sees the back of Izuku, right? He sees like this monstrous back. Because Izuku right now he looks like The Rock, like he still has hair, but his like stature. Let me show you. Go to YouTube. Try. Uh, give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. Pause it. So like when he enters Izuku's room, right? This is what he sees, legitimately. Like that's what he sees. You know, the rock. You see the rock's back in the top video. That's what he sees. You know, and he's like, "What the fuck is that?" You know, he's like, "How the fuck is this nigga so strong now?" He's like, "How is this brother so big now?" You know, and he's like, why is he so big? You know, like I thought the point of the lean type look was to like maximize power and speed. Like right now to Bakugo it looks like Izuku's all power and no speed type shit. But Izuku found out that if he just practices being fast while building muscle, you know, his muscle will like adjust to it, you know, and even if he's bulky, he can still be fast, you know, type shit. So Izuku put on like a bunch of muscle type shit. He doesn't look like All Might yet, because All Might looks like a fucking Mr. Olympia, you know. But Izuku looks like a typical bodybuilder, you know, just like not a typical bodybuilder, but like a pro bodybuilder type shit. And Bakugo sees Izuku doing like push-ups, right? And he's not like even coming into the door because he doesn't want to disturb Izuku, right? Because he wants to see what else Izuku would do. And he sees Izuku like lift these like huge ass weights, which the weights in his human form, right? He has like 25% of one for all strength, you know? 25% if he's not trying, and then 30% if he is trying a little bit. And then he has like 50% of one for all if like, and mind you, this is All Might's one for all, not Izuku. In the original timelines, we cast one for all. This All Might's like United States of Smash. So 50% United States of Smash, that's like Izuku's top power in his human form, you know? Because he doesn't have like an enhancement quirk like All Might. He has like superhuman strength. That's it. he doesn't have the strength of Hercules, you know? He has like Poseidon's super strength. He's like an exact he's like Poseidon 2.0 with upgrades, you know? And so when Bakugo sees this, he sees Izuku lifting like weights that say um the weights say 200 kg each arm, you know? And he's like, how the fuck is that possible? You know? Because Izuku's lifting like 250 kg each arm, just lifting them. Like, he just came off of push-ups, which he did like 200 push-ups. When Bakugo came in, he was in the middle, and he'd already did 800 push-ups. So Izuku does 1,000 push-ups and then goes to 250 kg each arm. You know, and Bakugo was like, how the fuck is it possible? He just did 200 push-ups, you know? And he says this like under his breath, and Izuku hears it, and he's like, actually, I did 1,000. And then Izuku goes on like the pull-up bar near the entrance, like literally on his door. So he's like face to face with Bakugo. Bakugo thinks he's like gonna attack him or some shit, and he just grabs the pull-up bar because Izuku, he used to be like a very um aggressive person because of all that anger he had about the gods, like sending him to another universe, taking him away from his parents and stuff. But Izuku's like, hey yo, I have a great life here. There's modern medicine. Most people I know aren't gonna die like before. Like, I don't have to be worried about the gods plotting on me at all times like all the other gods do. Like, I don't have any godly duties or anything. I don't have to dispute over the right to the sea with my father or anything. Like, I'm Gucci, my nigga. He's like, I could not be living a better life right now. And he just calms his mind, you know. He lets go of all that anger and stuff. So he's not like that same angry person that would punch Bakugo just for being in his presence. So Bakugo expects to get a punch. He just like grips the handles of his pull-up bar and just starts doing pull-ups. And Bakugo just stays there and watches the whole thing. And Izuku does 1,000 pull-ups, you know. And then he goes back to the weights and does 1,000 curls each arm. Like, and then Izuku, he like he starts doing like weighted squats uh, with 500 kg on his back. He just weighted squats. Boom, boom, 1,000 of those, you know. And then he like turns on his he goes on his the palm of his hands and starts doing handstand push-ups, you know. And he does 1,000 of those. Boom, gets up, puts the 500 back on his back. He does 2,000 squats, you know. And then he goes back on the floor with the he goes back on the floor, does the handstand, 1,000 push-ups again, goes back on his feet, weights on his back, does 5,000 not sit-ups, 5,000 squats. Then he goes on the floor, does 10,000 sit-ups, and that's it. And that's his whole workout, right? Because Bakugo was fortunate enough to catch him in the start of the workout, and they were in his room for like about an hour, and Inko goes up to check on them, and she sees Izuku like sweating like a mug, you know. And she's like, "Oh, Bakugo, you must have caught Izuku like on his workout time, bro. Like, you must have caught him on his workout time. Like, um, he's like, you're very lucky, you know. He doesn't let just anyone see his workouts." And Bakugo's like, "Is that right?" And then, you know, they go downstairs, and Izuku takes a shower. Like, he takes like a 30-minute shower. They go downstairs. Mind you, Bakugo's family has been there for like an hour, right? They're like, damn, we haven't even seen Izuku yet. The fuck? And Izuku takes that 30-minute shower, goes downstairs, and they just see this hulking, like, mountain of muscle They're like, is that Izuku? Like, what the hell? Like, we knew he was built, but what the hell is this? Like, he looks like a bodybuilder type shit. And Izuku's like, yo, he's like, yeah, cool. He's like, anyway, I'm hungry, so I'm gonna go out to eat. And he looks at Bakugo. He's like, yo, you trying to go? Cause he's honestly like done. Like he's done not trusting people now. You know. Cause I said he wasn't ever gonna trust people, but like that's just dead. Like we'd have an emo ass character like Sasuke. I don't like them characters. I'm just gonna say. So Izuku's like, I'm gonna go grab a bite to eat. You know, like Bakugo, you trying to go? And Bakugo's like, yo, he's like, yeah, for sure, for sure. No, actually, Baku was like, "Why would I go? Why would I go with you, Deku?" And Izuku's like, "All right, whatever." And he's just about to leave, right? And Baku was like, "All right, whatever. I'll go." He's like, "Wait, I'll go." Damn. And they go and they slam the door. You know, they close the door, and Baku goes out with Izuku, and he's just still waiting on that punch from Izuku, because you have to remember, for 10 years, Izuku has bullied Bakugo, bro. Like whenever Bakugo tried to bully him, Izuku would just bully him back, type shit, you know. And so Bakugo was expecting that punch, but nothing happens whatsoever. And so, they get to this kebab place. They get like a bunch of kebab, like fries or chips, whichever one you call it, fam. I don't know. Fuck. They got a bunch of chips, like and salad, a bunch of salad, and Bakugo gets like um two large orders, right? And Izuku gets like five large orders, and they finish eating at the same time, which is perplexing to Bakugo because Bakugo wasn't eating fast, but he wasn't eating slow as well. So he's like, how the fuck does this nigga finish at the same time as me? Like, even though he wasn't eating fast either, you know? And Yuzuki's like, anyway, where you trying to go next? And Baku's like, I don't know, nigga, like the park or some shit. And Yuzuki's like, cool, like we can play some basketball while we're there. So they play basketball and shit. And this is like a whole cool thing, It's been like 5 hours since Bakugo arrived, and Bakugo arrived at like um he arrived at 12 in the morning, so it's like 4 a.m. at this point. And Izuku's like, anyway, you trying to go back home or you want to do something else? And Bakugo was like, nah, we about to spar. And Izuku's like, oh, you trying to spar? Okay. And Bakugo was like, oh shit, you willing? He's like, you're willing to spar this time? He's like, who are you? Like, you're a whole different person, bro. And Izuku's like, I just found myself, bro. And Bakugo was like, so that's the training you did? Like, you went to find yourself? And Izuku's like, nah, I did a bunch of training. It's just, eventually I had to reflect on myself type shit, you know? And Bakugo's like, nigga, I'm not understanding shit. Like, let's just fight. Let's just run the fade right now. And Izuku's like, alright, that's cool. And so, it starts off pretty light. Just Bakugo throwing a few punches. He's like throwing punches and punches and punches. Because usually they don't use their quirk when they fight. And Izuku's like, is that it? Aren't you going to start using your quirk? And Bakugo's like, so I'm allowed? Because usually when him and Izuku used to fight, Izuku used to be like, no quirks. Because he didn't like showing off his powers. And Izuku's like, yeah, sure, bro. He's like, it's not like anybody can stop us anyway. Because there's a bunch of people looking at them, right? Like, what the hell? Are they using that quirk? Are they fighting or something? Should we call heroes? And Bakugo's like, you right. And so Bakugo starts using explosions, like a bunch of explosions, right? But Izuku's still not using his quirk. And Bakugo's like, hey yo, I thought you said we was using quirks. Why aren't you using yours? And Izuku's like, you right. It's not fair to you for sure. And so Izuku he just starts like drawing a bunch of water from the air, and it's like it's circling him like when Aang turned into the Avatar state, and the water was just circling him and shit, and it circles him, right? And basically, Bakugo rushes at him and throws like this giant explosion right at his face, and Izuku just like dodges real quick. He just like moves his head out the way, and uses like a water whip and just whips like Bakugo's leg, pulling him, pulling him, like pulling his leg, and his balance goes along with it. Bakugo falls, then Bakugo like does this like spinneroonie shit, gets up and just blasts Izuku like in the side of his ribs, and Izuku he feels it because he's in his human form. You know, he's not invulnerable, so Izuku feels it. Like Bakugo has been practicing his quirk for 10 years just to be able to hurt Izuku, you know? And he's like, damn. And Izuku's like, damn, like, you've gotten strong, my nigga. And Bakugo's like, yo, you think so? Because Bakugo has never hated Izuku, you know? He's just always thought Izuku thought he was better than everybody else. And Izuku thinks he's better than everybody else. He knows he's better than everybody else. But he just doesn't act like it anymore because he realized, like, that's just something not good to do. Like, he's like, yo, I'm a literal god, but I can't show humility. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, if I'm living amongst humans, I might as well act like a fucking human. Like, the fuck? You know? He's like, if somebody disrespected me, obviously I'm not gonna take that disrespect, but I'm not gonna think myself above others and not let them in just because of that. So Bakugo just always everything Bakugo wanted was Izuku to treat him like a normal person, you know, like not below him, not like above him or anything. He just wanted Izuku to be like, he just wanted Izuku to treat him like an equal, and Izuku's doing that right now. He's using his quirk against him. He's not throwing no witty comments or anything. He's like acknowledging his blows and shit. And Bakugo's like, damn, like you really have changed. And Izuku's like, yeah, thanks. He's like, I appreciate the compliment. And basically they fight for a long time. So I said they started fighting at like 4. So it's like 6 o'clock now. They've been fighting for like 2 hours straight, you know, because Bakugo does work on his stamina a lot. Like he works on everything that Izuku took advantage of, and basically, it ends up with Izuku winning. Obviously, Izuku is like enough, and Izuku's like, I think that's enough for today. He's like, I'm gonna finish this, and Bakugo was like, oh really? How are you gonna do that? You know, because Bakugo was like, he must be bluffing. Like he doesn't have this much fucking stamina, bro. And Izuku just like he just he like stomps his foot and everything around them freezes because everybody had evacuated, you know, and heroes were trying to like get in between them. So Izuku just like froze the area around them, you know, and they he just froze the area around them like a big like ice wall, and everybody that's and there's a bunch of like fire heroes trying to melt the firewall and stuff. Not the firewall, massive ice wall. And there's a bunch of fire heroes trying to melt the ice wall, and it's not melting. And there was a bunch of like body enhancement heroes trying to like break the barriers and stuff. And after 2 hours of doing this, even though the ice wall isn't doing anything, it's still like somebody using their quirk, quote unquote. And so they call All Might, you know. This is like right before, this right after Izuku and Bakugo and their fight. So Izuku like stomps on the ground. Like this is like how the fight ends. Izuku stomps on the ground like really hard. Like to the point where a crater is formed around him, and out of nowhere just this geyser like pops up from underneath Bakugo, and the water just sprays upwards, and everybody sees this geyser right when All Might punches like the ice barrier and the ice wall shatters. They just see this giant geyser, right, that of water, and then the all of the water freezes with Bakugo inside, and that basically knocks Bakugo out. And when that happens, you know, All Might thinks it's like a villain attack, so he goes to punch Izuku, and Izuku just like sidesteps him. You know, he sidesteps him, and then he unfreezes Bakugo, which makes Bakugo go back to consciousness. And Bakugo's like, hey, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is All Might here? Blah blah blah. And Izuku's like, hey yo, you might. He's like, cover your face, cover your face, cover your face. and Baku was wearing like this hoodie, so he just like uses it to cover his face, and Izuku like he like he holds on to Bakugo real quick and just like flies away the fastest he can, and All Might tries to lead chase, you know, and Izuku he's not running away because he's scared, he's just running away because he's like, bruh, I don't got time for this. Like I would literally have to draw. He's like I would have to use more power because he was only going like 25% against Bakugo, and he's like I'd have to go 100% against All Might. Um, but I don't want to do that shit. He's like I'm fucking annoyed right now. He's like cause like his his ice wall wasn't supposed to knock out Bakugo, right? But the force of it knocked Bakugo out. So he's annoyed that he's like a perfectionist when it comes to his attacks. So he's like annoyed that his attack like didn't do exactly what he wanted it to. So he's like, I'm annoyed right now. I don't got time for this bullshit. And so when All Might gets there, he just flies away. And All Might's trying to lead chase, but nothing happens. And Izuku gets back home. So does Bakugo. They get back to Inko's house. It's 6 o'clock now, right? And they get back, and their parents is like, "Oh my God, are you guys okay? Like we saw there was like this villain attack with this ice villain and stuff." And Izuku's like, "Fuck." And his mother sees like the look on his face, and Izuku's like, "Fuck." Like he's like, "Fuck, she saw me." And he tries to like, and he like taps Bakugo, because during this one day, since Izuku changed his whole attitude and acknowledged Bakugo and Izuku are like, they ain't homies yet. That's gonna be like developed over the next thing. Bakugo is still a dick, and Izuku's a dick too. But they're like they cool with each other right now. But this like this brosmanship is gonna develop. Like I always say, Bakugo is a terrorist, which he is. His quirk is literally explosions. But I'm just saying, that nigga got a cool power though. Like the explosions, you can't say they don't be boss. I just gotta take this. Appreciate it. So like I was saying, they cool. Like they're not homies, but they cool. You know. So Bakugo, I'm saying his power is fucking beautiful to see, bro. Especially when they do the animation justice for his power. You know, it's beautiful to see. Like when the movie Two Heroes came out, you can't say the animation for Bakugo's explosions were fire. But I'm just saying, his original personality in the show is kind of a terrorist. I'm just saying, he's trying to blow up everybody, kill everybody. Like that's just weird. Like, and you ain't even the main character. That's what pisses me off. But anyway, you know, Izuku's like, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. We're gonna play some basketball and shit. And Bakugo's like, yeah, can we go to your room right now? He's like, let's go to your room real quick. And Izuku's like, you saved me, bro. You saved me. Because Bakugo peeked, you know. So they run upstairs real quick. Like, they do the Air Force run, you know. They run upstairs. And, you know, they discover that Inko's already there. Somehow. Somehow she's already there. I don't even know how. I don't even know how. But somehow Inko's already there. And she's like, Izuku Midoriya. And Izuku's like, fuck. And Bakugo's like, yo, I'm gone, bro. I'm gone. And, you know, Inko's like, hey, yo, you're not off the hook either. And Inko's like, Mitsuki, come up here. And Mitsuki's like, yeah, what is it? And she's up there, and Inko's like, you remember when we saw on the TV that there was a hero attack, a villain attack about an ice villain, you know, and there was two villains inside fighting, and you know, Mitsuki is like, yeah, and Inko's like, well, it was actually these two fighting, and Mitsuki's like, what? You made public television as villains? and but nobody saw their faces. That's one positive thing about it. And you know, Mitsuki's like, yo, at least nobody saw your face, right? And Bakugo's like, yeah. We made sure nobody saw our faces. And Mitsuki's like, well, you're grounded for a week. He's like, until the UA. She's like, unless you pass the UA test, you're grounded, and you're grounded until then anyway. She's like, you're grounded until the UA entrance exam, and unless you pass, you're gonna be grounded for the rest of your life. And Izuku looks at Inko, and Inko's like, yeah, the same thing she said. And basically, they take away their PlayStations and their phones. But Izuku's got a backup phone. Bakugo doesn't, because Bakugo doesn't really. Yeah. Anyway, so it comes the day of the entrance exam, right? And Bakugo and Izuku, they show up together because they don't have their phones, allegedly, for Izuku, and they don't have their PlayStations or anything. They just meet up daily, and be playing basketball and stuff. And even though Izuku and Izuku and Bakugo's parents make a lot, they still live in the hood for some reason, because that's just where all of their family is, that. For Izuku, that's where all of his parents' family is, so like his cousins and stuff. And for Bakugo, that's just where his family is too. So Izuku has a bunch of cousins, they gang members and shit, and Izuku doesn't really care, you know. Um, so him and Bakugo just play basketball every day for a week, because that's all their entertainment they're gonna get, except for the TV, which Izuku's mom is like hesitant to let him see. And the day of the UA exam, they walk to school together. Uraraka trips. Izuku picks her up and he's like, "Yo, be on your way, yeah." And he just like keeps walking with Bakugo. When they get inside, him and Bakugo are like so excited because they got their phones and their PS4s back, so they can like chat to each other constantly. Cause Bakugo for real is like Izuku's first friend type thing, and so they're like not best friends yet, but they're close. Izuku's so Bakugo's like closer to Izuku than anybody except for his mom and dad, his cousins and shit. So Izuku and Bakugo, they just in the back chopping it up, talking like while President Mike is talking. So Ida gets angry. He does the same thing. I'm disappointed in UA because of the 0 pointer thing, and he turns around. He's like, "You two have been talking this whole time. Like, stop disturbing President Mike and stuff." And basically, um, President Mike is like, "What the fuck is this nigga doing?" And Izuku stands up and he's like, "Shut the fuck up." And he just sits down, And Ida's like, "Wait, what? How dare you disrespect me like that?" And Izuku's like, "Shut the fuck up." And Ida's still talking, right? And Izuku just lets off some of his presence, which Bakugo has felt this presence because he wanted to spar again. And basically, him and Izuku sparred every day, but they found like a secluded location where they won't be filmed by the news every single time they do this shit. So Bakugo's felt this presence only once, which is like not Izuku's godly presence, right? Because his godly presence makes everybody terrified. But this is just like his not his bloodlust, but like his you could say his spirit thing. What was it from Bleach? It was, I don't fucking know, nigga. Like the spirit energy, spirit pressure, spiritual pressure. Yeah, that's it. They just feel his spiritual pressure. That's it. And thing, Bakugo's felt this just once before, and this was like their latest spar, which was like yesterday, right? Like the day before they sparred, and they do it like in the forest, like near a mountain, and Bakugo accidentally like did an explosion too big, and all of the rocks, all of the like a big ass side of the mountain just crumbled off because of this one explosion that landed in a convenient spot. And the mountain had been taking various hits from Bakugo over this whole week, so a bunch of rubble crumbled, and it was about to hit Bakugo, but Izuku pushed him out the way, and Bakugo thought Izuku was like gonna be dead or some shit, right? Because there was a lot of rubble. Then Bakugo felt this immense spiritual pressure, and then Izuku just like, and then he just saw like this bunch of rubble just fly out, you know. And Izuku came out, and he was fine. He just like he had like this one scratch on his chin, which healed up nearly immediately. Which healed up not like in front of Bakugo, but like over, but like it healed up like pretty quickly. It's not uh like a gash. It was just like a scratch, literally. So um Bakugo was like, takes note. He's like, this must be when Izuku's like angry or some shit. And then Ida sits down. President Mike continues. They go outside. Izuku doesn't try to encourage Uraraka or anything. Just stays in his lane. And Ida goes up to him and he's like, "You were very rude today, blah blah blah. This is not becoming of a hero." And Izuku's like, "Shut the fuck up." And he just walks to Bakugo. And Ida intercepts him and he's like, "Are you planning to distract that student?" And Izuku's like, "Shut the fuck up." And just like moves out the way and just like just walks to Bakugo. They start chopping it up. And then President Mike does that whole a hero doesn't need a countdown, blah blah blah. And they all go. And Izuku just like Izuku just forms this massive water bubble above the sky, and everybody's looking like, what the hell is that? And then they see this kid float up, right? And the water like drops, and just massive spikes of ice form, right? And they fall on like, gonna say 102 pointers. So he already has like 200 points off the back, you know. And Izuku's like, yeah, that should be enough for me. But then he sees Bakugo like destroyed a whole bunch of robots. So he destroyed a whole bunch of 3 pointers and 2 pointers. So Bakugo's got like 202 points, and Izuku's like, nah, can't have that. He's like, can't have myself being outdone. And All Might's like, what the fuck? Two candidates that already surpassed my record, and it's only been 5 minutes, because Izuku got like his 200 points at the beginning of the thing, and he's just been chilling for 5 minutes. Bakugo was grinding his ass, and he's got like 202 points, and he's like, Izuku's probably just gonna stay up there the whole time, so I should stop too. And then he sees Izuku come down, and they got put in the same area, um, they got put in the same area because the whole thing about the people in the same school not being put in the same area was so they couldn't like be with their friends and have teamwork and shit. But Izuku and Bakugo, their school file says they have a history for violence against each other and misdemeanors and shit. And so everybody didn't expect them to be friends or anything, right? So Izuku jumps down and he's like, "Hey yo, I can't have you overtaking me. I was counting and that's 202. I only got 200. What are you doing?" And Bakugo's like, I'm trying to beat you. The fuck is you talking about?" He's like, "Don't sound so surprised, nigga. I'm trying to beat you." And Izuku's like, all right, let's play a game. Whoever gets the most point by the end of this has to buy the other one food, because in their sparring matches they they always like they always buy each other food. Whoever loses has to buy the other one food. And Izuku, he didn't just let Bakugo be weak, because Bakugo's like a friend to him, right? And Izuku just realized over this week that that Bakugo just wanted to be his friend the whole time. He just wanted to be treated as an equal type shit. So Izuku's like, oh, word, word, word. He a real one. He a real one. Like, we may not always see eye to eye, but he's still a real one. Like, there's no fucking doubt about it. And so Izuku doesn't like give Bakugo any of his godly power. I was gonna say that he gave Bakugo some of his godly energy, but that would make Bakugo like literally explode from the inside out. So Izuku, and I'm gonna say the reason Bakugo's explosions aren't um, as powerful as they could be is because he had like a bunch of nerve damage and bone damage in his hands because of the explosions he uses are too big and too powerful. So Izuku healed his hands and like reinforced his bones and stuff, right? With the magical healing properties of his water that he got from his mother, his biological mother. She's not a god or anything. She was just a not magician, like a druid from a certain clan that was able to heal people. And so his water is able to heal, you know? And the protection he put on Bakugo's hands is so like massive and huge that Bakugo could make like big ass explosions the size of buildings and like not get damaged, you know? And so they go at it this whole time, you know? And Bakugo's like, I'm gonna beat you this time. Like since you fixed my nerves and bones, like my explosions have been like um 50 times bigger, you know? And Izuku's like, yeah, that's cool. Don't worry, I'm still gonna beat you. And so they start going at it, right? And but they're not like destroying so many as to everybody else don't have points, you know? And everybody knows to stay clear of those guys because they're gonna destroy all the robots and not gonna leave anybody else with them. So everybody else moves to the other side of the arena and just lets Izuku and Bakugo destroy all of the other robots, right? And everybody that gets in gets in. Everybody that didn't get into your way didn't get into your way. So Bakugo and Izuku at the end, Bakugo has 292 points and Izuku has 296 points. And Izuku's like, it looks like you buying me dinner, nigga. And Bakugo's like, don't be so fucking sure. And so Izuku and Bakugo, they both hear the scream of Uraraka and they're like, what the fuck is that? And Izuku's like, I think somebody's in trouble. And Bakugo and Izuku, they just start running that way, right? And everybody's like running past them. And they see Uraraka. Izuku's like, hey, yo, he's like, get the girl, I'll destroy the robot. And Bakugo's like, why do you get to destroy the robot? And Izuku's like, I destroy the most robots. And Bakugo's like, fair point, fair point. He's like, but why do I have to get the girl? Like, and Izuku's like, firstly, like, get the fucking girl, my nigga. He's like, I'm trying to get you a fucking girlfriend. And Bakugo's like, hey, yo. He's like, hey, yo, you my dog, fam. and and Izuku's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, but don't worry, you can get there faster because of your maneuvers with your explosions. He's like, now go. He's like, cause the bitch is gonna be stepped on. And Bakugo's like, hey, yo, don't call my future wife a bitch. And Deku's like moving kind of fast, but okay. And so Deku starts flying, and the teachers are seeing like this mad teamwork from Izuku and Bakugo that they've never seen in anybody else, right? And so Bakugo uses his explosions for maneuverability when he's like in the air, right? And he gets to Uraraka like real quick, picks up the rubble, right? But he can't get them all, so he like explodes it upward type shit. He picks up Uraraka, starts running, you know, and he gives the okay to Deku, and Deku's like, he's like, yeah, it's time. And Bakugo doesn't call Izuku Deku anymore. He calls him Izuku, you know. And so um, Izuku's like, yeah, it's finally time. And so everybody just sees this massive, um, this like not massive actually. They just see like this ball of water in Izuku's hand. And then Izuku like charges it up like a fucking Kamehameha, you know. And Bakugo sees this and he's like, "You fucking bitch." He's like, "You charging?" He's like, "You fucking bitch. You told me you wouldn't do nothing flashy today." He's like, "You wouldn't. You told me you wouldn't do nothing flashy today." And Izuku hears this with his hearing and he just shouts, "I know, but like, it's a giant robot, bro." And And Baku was like, whatever, whatever. And Izuku's like, anyway, get up here, bro. And Baku was like, sure, sure, for sure, for sure. And so Baku gets up there, right? And like Izuku, he like gets a bunch of gases from the air that are like flammable as shit, and he like makes a bunch of he like concentrates a bunch of oxygen inside the water as well, and he like blasts it off a a fist sized beam, and it goes straight through the robot, right? And they're like, but that's not gonna do anything. All the students are like, thought it was gonna be flashy. It's not gonna do anything. And Bakugo like he doesn't like an explosion at the water, and the shit just like magnifies, you know, like it just becomes like this gargantuan sized, um, like not fire but like um, liquid fire blast that just completely destroys the zero pointer, right? And it just melts it down to nothingness. And it's like their special move combined attack that they came up with, right? And it's not like their strongest attack, but it's one of them, right? So teachers are like, "What the fuck was that?" They're like, "They already have their own special move. Like, what the fuck?" And Izuku's like, "Yeah, nigga." He's like, "I could have destroyed." Izuku's like, "I could have destroyed it by myself. You know that, right?" And Bakugo's like, "I know, but you know, thanks for letting me help, though." And Izuku's like, "All right, fuck, nigga. I'm hard though." And Izuku like Izuku flies down, and Bakugo's like, "Hey, yo, wait, how am I supposed to get down?" And Izuku's like, "Use explosions to get up there. Use explosions to get down." And Bakugo's like, "Great thinking." And he just like drops and does an explosion just before hits the ground, allowing him safe and comfortable landing, And Izuku and Bakugo just walk off, and All Might's like, either of those kids like would be great for my quirk. Like either of them would just be like a perfect successor for One for All. Like they have great teamwork. They don't seem like bad kids. They don't bully anyone or anything. Like except for the blue haired one having a bit of an attitude problem, which he thinks Izuku have an attitude problem. And because he still remembers Izuku being like, shut the fuck up to him, right? And he's like, how could he say that to All Might, to me, And he's like, except for the blue one having an attitude problem, like I think, I think I just found my successor. Talking about Bakugo. And he's like, and then I can show that smug friend of his, that All Might and his power is nothing to be trifled with. He's like, me and my power are nothing to be trifled with. And so he goes up to Bakugo, and he's like, young Bakugo, and slides around the corner. And him and Izuku are together. And yeah, All Might's like, can I speak to you in private? And Bakugo's like, nah. And and basically, Bakugo used to be like a super fanboy of All Might, but then he like mellowed out about the All Might shit. He treats All Might with respect, but it's like, bruh, you just a human. Like the fuck, like you a human like me. Like I'm not gonna show you any type of special treatment. And so All Might's like, but I need to talk to you about something important. And Bakugo's like, anything you can say to me, you can say to my nigga Izuku right here. And I'm gonna say that their friendship it developed kind of fast. I'm gonna say this because me and my best friend, our friendship developed kind of fast too. Let's just say he's like, me and my homie Izuku right here. You gonna have to talk to both of us together. And All Might's like, it doesn't matter. Like they're both great candidates anyway. It doesn't matter. And Izuku's like, speak then. And All Might's like, there you go with the fucking attitude problem again. That's why you ain't becoming my successor, bitch. Yeah, you get to see your best friend become the successor of the nigga told to shut the fuck up. Just because you told me to shut the fuck up, now you're gonna miss an opportunity. This is what All Might's thinking in his head, right? And he's thinking he thinks he could take Izuku anytime, right? But that ain't true. Anyway, so All Might's like, I have a quirk. It's called One for All. It can boost quirks and be passed down. and basically Bago was like, "Oh, so you want to pass it down to me or Izuku?" And All Might's like, "I was thinking Izuku at first because his water quirk would be boosted a great deal, and he could control, and then and maybe he could take down the actually not. He was like, I was thinking of giving it to young Midoriya here, like when I first met him, but it seems you are a much greater fit for it, or some shit, right?" And so, because Izuku, he doesn't look all that muscular when he's in his average clothes, you know. He just looks like a regular lanky ass teenager, right? Because his clothes, they're always like too baggy for him, because he doesn't like drawing attention to himself with the um with tight or right fitting clothes like Bakugo that shows off his muscles, right? And so All Might's like, it requires a great deal of muscle to control my quirk. And Bakugo's like, then why the fuck is you asking me? And All Might's like, what do you mean? You have a bunch of muscle, and your friend, quite frankly, like, no disrespect, but he is quite skinny. And Izuku's like, oh really? And Babu was like, "Hey, yo, cuz you gonna have to show this nigga real quick." And Izuku was like, "For sure, for sure." And Izuku just like unbuttons his shirt, right? And All Might's like, "What the fuck?" Because Izuku looks like a fucking bodybuilder, like I told you. Give me a second. Shit. Move, move, move yourself. Move yourself. Remove yourself. Remove yourself. What the? Move. The fuck? Move from my fucking. Okay. I found the picture. Okay, he's like this built. I know I use this picture a lot. It's because I like it. I don't know. There's just something about it. So he looks like this. And Omar's like, what the fuck? He's like, how did I not see this before? And he's always like, I wear very baggy clothes. And Omar's like, makes sense. Because his clothes aren't like baggy in the sense that they like droop off of him. They're baggy in the sense that they just don't show his muscles. Like they're distanced from his muscles. That way it just doesn't show him. It shows that his arms are like it shows his arms like a decent size, but it doesn't show like he's a monster build, you know. He looks like a young All Might with blue hair. So oh shit, I could have just done this. What the fuck is wrong with me, nigga? Damn. Fucking stupid. Move yourself. Move this shit. Yeah. So and he has the yellow eyes with the dark insides, right? Which everybody thinks is just a part of his quirk, even though it's like a tell point for a god. It's like how you can tell a god from a mortal. And All Might, that's one of the things that All Might doesn't notice, that him and this Poseidon guy have the same eyes, but he's like, there's no way it could be him because the Poseidon guy, he has like a beard, and he has a beard and dark. Nah, he has like a beard, right? And he's like gigantic. Like this couldn't be that guy. And so, and he looks like older. Like Izuku in his god form, he looks 25 at all times. He looks like his prime, which Izuku's gonna start. He's gonna stop aging when he turns 25. So, um, All Might's like, anyway, I just want you to be the successor anyway. It doesn't matter. And Izuku's like, okay, that's fair, I guess. He's like, from the way I treat you, I guess that's fair. And he just says that in his mind, and he's just standing back. And Bakugo looks at Izuku, and Izuku's like, go for it, bro. Like, you like he's like it's a boost in power, bro. Like I'm not saying you need it because you don't, but like are you gonna refuse power at no cost? And so All Might's like there is one cost. Like you have to fight my greatest nemesis, all for one. He has the ability to take quirks, and he's 200 years old. And he's like, bro, that's a piece of cake. he's like Bakugo. If me and you team up, this nigga all for one, he'll be a piece of cake. And Bakugo's like, yeah, for sure, for sure. And so Bakugo's like, I'll take a quirk. And and basically, All Might gives Bakugo the hair. Bakugo like eats the hair, and Izuku's just in the background like he's laughing. He's like, "You ate a nigga's DNA," and basically Bakugo's like, "Damn it, fucking Izuku, my nigga." He's like, "Fucking Izuku." He's like, "Shut the fuck up, nigga." And Izuku's like, "So if he told you to eat his semen, would you do it too?" And Izuku just bursts out laughing, you know. And All Might, he's like, he comes from like a white family, right? He like doesn't know this type of humor, and he's like, oh, they must be like ghetto as fuck. He's like, they must be ghetto as fuck from the hood, cause he's a tiny bit smidget racist, just a smidget, you know, just a smidget. He's like, they must be from the hood, and so you know, Izuku is like, anyway, when should this boost kick in? And All Might's like, it should kick in about 5 hours. And Izuku's like, sure, then we'll test it out in 5 hours. He's like, me and Bakugo gotta go get this food that you're paying for, by the way, looking at Bakugo. And All Might's like, oh, you guys going to get food? He's like, I'll come with you, fam. He's like, Bakugo is my successor now, after all, so, you know, I'm gonna have to be with him at most times now. You know, it's gonna take a lot of getting used to the new power of One for All, because One for All is gonna boost Bakugo dramatically to the point where Bakugo's normal explosions are like Bakugo season 4, the massive explosions he's able to do in season 4. That's gonna be like his weak explosions, you know. So it's gonna boost Bakugo like to the point of uh like a full power Detroit Smash is like a weak blow for Bakugo, because Bakugo's quirk is already powerful as fuck in the original, plus this extra training he did in this timeline, and having One for All, it's just gonna boost him to a whole nother extreme. So Izuku is like, alright, sure, you can come. He's like, you can come for sure, for sure. And so they go to the kebab shop again. They buy not the same. Bakugo's eating more now because he's trying to put a little bit more muscle on him, you know, so he doesn't look scrawny. He doesn't look scrawny in comparison to Izuku, which Izuku's been helping him even though Bakugo doesn't know. Like anytime Bakugo does like a serious workout and his muscles are like damaged and it's gonna take a long time for him to recover, Izuku just heals him up right quick. So Bakugo's getting like major gains and he doesn't even know why. But he has like this sneaking suspicion that it's Izuku helping him, you know? But he doesn't mind it because Izuku's like his nigga now. But anyway, so they go out and yeah, they go out and him Bakugo and Izuku Bakugo and All Might are eating, and so Bakugo gets like three servings of the large. Izuku gets 5 again, and All Might gets 8. You know, because he needs to eat a lot to maintain the form as well. I'm gonna say that, and so All Might sees Izuku eats 5, and he's like, damn. He's like, this kid eats more than when I than at my age. He's like, if nothing, he's like way more buff than me at my age. Like Bakugo would be like a better comparison. And so, you know, uh, and so they play basketball, and the 5 hours are up. Like the timer goes off, and the 5 hours are up, and Izuku's like, okay. So the 5 hours are up. How are we gonna test his power? And All Might explains it the best that he can how to activate the power. And All Might says that he used to be quirkless, so the power was hard for him to activate at first, and he had to like use it as a separate quirk
Like he would have to use it like a new quirk, like because he'd never had one. But Bakugo, like his quirk should fuse with one for all, and just be boosted, you know. So Bakugo was like, oh okay, so I just activate my normal quirk and one for all activates as well. And Almight's like, yeah, kind of like that, I guess. And so Bakugo activates like his normal explosions, and one for all activates immediately, you know, because and just fuses with his quirk immediately. And so Bakugo lets out like, and Izuku's like, okay, let out like, he's like, so this thing is supposed to be a booster, so let out like a normal explosion. Which a normal explosion for Bakugo would be like, at this point would be like the size of a human being. You know, it'd be like the size of a human being. But now when he does it, it's like the size of a fucking house. And Izuku's like, that was a small explosion. That's like one of your mid explosions. And Bakugo's like, yeah, I know, but I didn't even feel that much restraint on my body like I usually do when I do like mid ones. And Izuku's like, damn. He's like, my nigga. And Izuku's like, hey yo, maybe he's like, maybe you'll finally be able to push me above like 50% in our fights now. And Bakugo's like, nigga, you been holding back? And Bakugo just gets angry, you know. He's like, I'm gonna beat your ass. And Izuku's like, I'm planning on it, my nigga. I'm planning on it. Let's fucking go. And almost like, wait, you two about to spar right now? And Izuku's like, yeah. We do it all the time. We do it all the time. And almost like, sure, I'll be the referee type shit, you know. And so almost like, okay, no, no, don't hit the nuts, don't hit the eyes, and no low blows like hitting an opponent when he's down or when their back is turned. And everybody's like, aye. And so they spar, and this spar, like I'm gonna say, the UA entrance exam lasted until like 3 o'clock, which is when we get 3:15, which is when we get off at school. 5 hours they had to wait for the quirk to activate. So it's already 8 o'clock, you know, and their spar lasts for it lasts for 2 hours, just like their normal matches. But this time Izuku uses 75%, and this is only because Bakugo is inexperienced with one for all. So Izuku's human form and Bakugo's advanced one for all, they're gonna be the same. They're gonna be like equal. So they're both gonna be savages. I'm not gonna lie. So damn, let's see how long this shit is. Fucking hell. 1 minute, 1 hour and 30. That is a lot of time. And I have school tomorrow as well. Shit. Anyway, so that they end that spar, you know, and Izuku still wins, and Izuku's like, hey yo, you pushed me to 75%, and Bakugo's like, what? That wasn't even your full power? And Izuku's like, nah, but you'll be able to push me one day, like, I know it, bro. And Bakugo's like, alright, for sure. And and he collapses from quirk overuse, and All Might's like freaking out and shit. And Izuku's like, yo, calm the fuck down. And he draws like some water from the lake and like heals Bakugo, you know. Bakugo wakes up and Izuku's like, yo, it's late as fuck. It's like 10 o'clock. We gotta go home, bro. And they say bye to All Might, and All Might's like, yes, I will see you tomorrow for further training, because they're gonna train for like the next 2 weeks. And so they go home. They get scolded by their mothers because they were out late. And 2 weeks go by. Bakugo has gotten used to the quirk. He's not like full cowl yet, which he can't make explosions from all throughout his body yet. That's when he's gonna be on par with Izuku, and he can make explosions from any part of his body. But now is when they go to UA. They see the door. They're like, "Why is it so fucking huge?" They open the door, and that's where I'm gonna leave you off on a cliffhanger. Fuck you, nigga. Goodbye.